The NBA season is finally here and there's a lot to be excited about. While there hasn't been a ton of blockbuster moves over the offseason, there still are several teams and storylines that are shaping up to be very fun to watch. So let's take a look at some of those teams and then I'll bring up a bunch of honorable mentions. Starting off, of course, with the New York Knicks. I was already extremely excited to see how the Knicks would be this season, and then they added Karl Anthony-Towns in a trade that literally nobody saw coming. I was hoping we would get to see the whole Villanova squad play together, but this trade is still a big win for them. They were able to win 50 games last season with a worse roster than they have now. OG Anunoby got traded halfway through the year, Mikal Bridges and Cat were both added this offseason, and Tyler Kolek is one of my favorite players coming out of the draft. They've got a top roster in the league, and there's still a chance they trade Mitchell Robinson. But giving Jalen Brunson the best floor spacing center in the league is going to make that offense so much better. This is one of the best teams they've had in years, and I'm happy that the organization is actually doing whatever they can to try and win it all. But if they're going to do that, they'll most likely have to go through another team I'm excited about in the Boston Celtics. Just like the Knicks, the Celtics have an extremely stacked roster, and have for the past few years. They're returning basically everyone and will be looking to be the first team to win back-to-back championships since the KD Warriors in 2018. The Celtics did the smart thing by winning a championship and actually bringing the whole team back. So of course we're the favorites to win the entire thing again this year. On the other side of the league, the Houston Rockets are another team that I can't wait to watch. The Rockets were able to win 41 games last year and were competing for a play-in spot until the very end. Even dealing with injuries, especially the loss of Sengun, they still went on an 11-game win streak during the final stretch of the season. They looked really good, and this year they'll be even better. Let me just list off a few of the young players they have. 22-year-old Jalen Green, 22-year-old Sengun, 20-year-old Reed Shepherd, who just looked extremely good in the Summer League by the way, 21-year-old Jabari Smith, 21-year-old Amen Thompson, 20-year-old Cam Whitmore. It just doesn't end. Those aren't like mediocre or bad players either. Every single player I listed can make a big impact on the team. They have some of the most young talent in the NBA and have a really bright future if even half of them can turn into what people think they can be. And shout out to Jeff Green for being the oldest player on the team by 8 years. The Western Conference is unbelievably stacked, so it's definitely not going to be easy to make the playoffs, but they do have the players to do it, at least eventually. And just like the Rockets, the Thunder also have a super young roster. On top of being one of the youngest teams in the league, they were literally the 1 seed in the West. They heavily overperformed people's expectations last season, so now people, including myself, are expecting them to take a step even further this season. Not only are the Thunder returning every single key player, they also added a few more. Isaiah Hartenstein is a very solid big man in a market where impactful big men are hard to come by. And just as good as that, they were able to trade Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso. The Thunder were able to take someone that barely played for them in the playoffs and trade him for someone that fits with the team perfectly. Caruso is one of the best defensive and off-ball guards in the league, and just like Hartenstein, he'll be able to make a big impact immediately. And by the way, that trade also makes 30-year-old Alex Caruso the oldest player on the entire team. Moving back to the Eastern Conference, the 76ers also added a big-time free agent over the offseason. Paul George isn't quite the needle mover that he used to be, but he's still a back-to-back All-Star and will fit with the Sixers perfectly. The Clippers had multiple All-Stars just like the Sixers do now, so he's already used to that part. Playing alongside Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey will be fun to watch, and if he can play 74 games again this season, then that will be huge for them. Plus their 2 draft picks in Jared McCain and Adam Bona should be pretty decent depth pieces right away. Joel Embiid is coming off a gold medal, Tyrese Maxey is coming off the best season of his career, and Paul George could be the piece to finally take them to the next level. The East hasn't been super competitive as of recently, but they now have multiple championship contenders. Not to mention the Pacers, Cavs, Bucks, Magic, and Heat. It's going to be a war competing for those top seeds in the regular season and even more so in the playoffs. But the Spurs are the only team that I'm looking forward to that won't be very good. They should be better than they were last year, but they've made it pretty known that they're prioritizing developing players rather than trying to win now. I mean, them trading their 8th overall pick for a 2031 first rounder is all you need to know. They added Harrison Barnes, who still can be a solid role player, but the biggest free agent they added was obviously Chris Paul. After everyone complained about Wembanyama not getting the ball when he was wide open, they decided to add someone who will be able to find him every time. They didn't sign him to win games, they signed him to develop Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, and Wembanyama. He's the perfect veteran leader for this team, and he's gonna do basically what he did in OKC, but for the Spurs. They might not win a ton of games, but they will be extremely fun to watch. The Orlando Magic are easily one of the teams I'm excited about the most. They won 47 games last year and took a good Cavaliers team to 7 games in the playoffs. They re-signed like half the team over the offseason and even added KCP and Corey Joseph. So not only do they have a really well put together young roster, but they just added one of the best free agent guards you possibly can add in KCP. They were one of the youngest teams in the league last year and added 2 veteran players to help with that. They now have an even better roster on top of a more experienced Paolo, Franz, Suggs, and more. Now let's talk about the other side of the Karl Anthony-Towns trade. Originally, I was excited to see the Timberwolves run it back with the team they had last year with the new additions, but obviously that didn't happen. Trading Karl Anthony-Towns, a player you drafted 9 years ago after making it to the conference finals just to save money, seems crazy to me. However, looking past that part, Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo are both really good players. The spacing on offense is going to be a little bit questionable after losing the best stretch big in the league, but we won't truly know what it looks like until we see it. Julius Randle was an all-star last season, and DiVincenzo is like the perfect role player. Plus, we can't forget how the Wolves were able to get that Spurs 8th overall pick in the draft for a future first rounder and a pick swap. I was really looking forward to seeing Anthony Edwards and Rob Dillingham, but then 2 plus DiVincenzo was even crazier. I don't really love the trade for the Timberwolves, but I guess it could have been worse. They did get 2 solid players out of it. But beyond the teams I've already talked about, there are several other teams I'm still excited to see. Like the Lakers, they literally haven't done anything to the roster, but seeing LeBron and Bronny on the floor together will be a pretty cool moment. The Grizzlies will be getting Ja Morant back, which is one of the things I'm excited about the most in general. Although the Grizzlies' injury curse is already happening again before the season even starts with Jaren Jackson Jr., so it's a good thing they drafted Zach Edey. The Pacers are always a super fun team to watch, and so are the Hornets. The Bulls are looking to finally have Lonzo Ball back after what feels like 10 years. Although the rest of the Chicago team doesn't look too thrilled. The Pelicans just added DeJounte Murray and supposedly are getting the best Zion yet, so if that team can stay healthy, then they will be super fun to watch. The Bucks are going into year 2 of Dame and Giannis while also upgrading multiple weak spots on the roster. The Kings are the same super fast-paced fun to watch team, but just added DeMar DeRozan. The Clippers are entering a whole new era with just James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, but even then they got a couple solid new additions. The Warriors will be playing without Klay Thompson for the first time since 2010, and on the other side of that, the Mavericks, who just went to the finals, were able to add Klay Thompson. Depending on which version of Klay they get, they also might have gotten a lot better. Not to mention every team that just drafted someone really high in the draft like the Hawks or the Wizards. Every team really has something to be excited about, and because of that, I've actually been looking forward to this season more than most. But let me know what team or teams you're excited about in the comments, and please leave a like on the video to support the channel. Also, subscribe if you're new for more basketball videos just like this one.